Welcome to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages, with your host, Matthew Shipp. This is the podcast for all of those who are involved in the agriculture all the way to the distribution of beverages. And now your host, Matthew Shipp.
Hello and welcome to Harvest to Pour. I'm your host, Matthew Shipp, and today I am here with Tyler Gloe, the co-owner and head distiller of Mule Distillery in Kansas City, Missouri. How you doing today, Tyler?
Good. How are you, Matt?
Pretty good. Good. Thanks for being here. This is going to be an interesting conversation. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did Mule come into existence? What brought you into the business? And just take us from there.
So, like you mentioned, my name is Tyler. I'm one of the owners here at Mule Distilling Co. and the head distiller located in Kansas City, Missouri. Our home's down here in the Crossroads Art District. We got our start producing American agave spirits back in 2017, roughly, when our founding owners, Jeff Evans and Meg Evans, we're a family-owned business. So Meg is my sister and her husband, Jeff. They are our founders. They got their start just kind of on a whim and a dream to get away from the 9-to-5 grind. And they started kind of experimenting a little bit, wanted to do something different. So they chose agave spirits. And they took it official in 2019. We opened our own location. We were kind of co-sharing a space with another local distillery and quickly outgrew that operation. So in 2019, we opened our storefront here in the Crossroads, and that's when I joined the team as the head distiller.
All right. So how many years have you been at this distillery?
Since October of 2019. So
October 2019. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so were you the first sole distiller, or how did they hand this off to you?
Yeah, so they basically needed a full-time helper, and they called me up and said, "Hey, we need somebody motivated to come in that we can trust." And I answered the call.
You answered the call. So what were some of the challenges you kind of ran into as stepping into this distillery role?
Yeah, so I had no previous distilling experience, right? So, and neither did Jeff or Meg. It is something that's run in our family for many moons. Our last name is known for distilling in the Herman area of Missouri since pre-Prohibition era. And that's, kind of a part of how we got our start. So we've all kind of grew up around alcohol production outfits, whether legal or not legal. Mm-hmm. But so I just kind of fell into it, and it was a lot of relying on, little bits of information that you find on the internet and YouTube videos, and a whole lot of trial and error.
Okay. So being in Kansas City, Missouri, agave is something you usually don't associate with this area. So how did that get started? Why agave spirits and not your typical bourbons or wines you find in this area?
Well, one thing about us is that we're pretty notorious for going against the grain or just trying to be different. And so I think when we got our start, it was, Meg and Jeff looked around and said, everybody's making bourbon, everybody's making whiskey, everybody's got a gin. What can we do to just really just freak people out and do something that they don't know what to do with? So American agave spirits hadn't been done on a scale, I guess, in the U.S. There was a couple of places who had done small batches, trialed it. Most ended up discontinuing. And then we've recently seen a larger resurgence again of American agave spirits being made in the U.S.
Well, that's interesting. So where did you? We'll get into that and where you sourced it in a minute. But yeah, I definitely would have to say when I told people I was interviewing a place in Kansas City, Missouri that made agave, and they're like tequila. I'm like, well, yeah, but I know there's a whole thing around that. They still rose an
Yeah.
eyebrow, like, where does that? How does that? I mean, I think they were doing some in Colorado, but this is the first I've heard of it in Missouri. So you're definitely right. It's definitely against the grain, and
Yeah.
so how have things been? How did you guys receive? How are you guys been received so far?
Well, I'll tell you, in the beginning years of operating, things were tough. How do
Okay.
you market it? Right. Kind of as the big tequila boom was taking off, you had all these big celebrity brands. The market was, fairly saturated, and we found it difficult to sell. And so
Mm.
what has kind of transitioned in recent years is that we're seeing a huge influx of farmers in the US starting to grow agave. And then that has resulted in distilleries starting to, buy those plants that have come to maturity and using them to make spirits with.
Okay. Okay. So the market has been changing and shifting to adapt to this new demand. Now, let's just briefly, just for people who may not know, why can you not call it tequila?
Yeah. So tequila has a denomination of origin. So it has to be made, in a specific region, which is the Jalisco state in Mexico. It has to be made with Blue Weber. Agave has to be, 100% from that.
Mm.
There's ever changing rules about additives and such, which that's a whole different topic. But yeah, so because we're made in the US, we kind of had to work with the TTB to figure out what even to classify ourselves as. And there was a settle on American agave spirits.
So that's what they settled on. Okay, that's
Yeah.
a great story. All right, so we're going to move into a little bit of our harvest to pour journey. And as I tell
Yeah.
everybody, this harvest is where you're sourcing your material, how you make your particular spirits uniquely yours. Now, this is kind of you are unique within your area, but still, it is going to be uniquely yours versus somebody else making agave spirits. I'm sure you're not the only ones. And then the pour is kind of the marketing piece. How do you keep your clients? How do you attract your clients? How do you keep people coming back and really enjoying what you have to offer? And that could go into just the marketing, the environment, the ecosystem you've created around yourself. So let's step back real quick into the harvest. And my first question on the harvest is: you talked a little bit about that there's now more American agave growers. Are there different varieties that influence the agave spirits now, or is it still pretty much the same genetic plant?
Yeah. So we currently make our baseline of products from agave nectar, which
Okay.
is the Blue Weber. So that's the same
Okay.
same plant that tequila is made from. However, the times are changing, and we are slowly beginning our transition away from nectar, like most all of the places in the US are doing, as the availability of plant is, it's plants are becoming more available for purchase in the US. And those are primarily not Blue Webers. They're usually a varietal like Americana, which is the century plant, or maybe something like Angustifolia or Espadine, as they're a little hardier in the West. And we tend to have larger temperature swings, especially where a lot of the plants are being grown in areas like Sacramento, famous for grapes. But they can see hard freezes, and the Blue Weber is just not as tolerant to those low temperatures.
Okay.
So we
Now,
do have
go,
some land in Arizona where we are growing some plants, and we have about 10,000 plants in nursery here in Kansas City that a portion of will be planted hopefully this fall on our property.
That was my other question. Are you guys processing the plants, or are you still receiving it as nectar, even though it may not be the Blue Weber?
Yeah, so we have not released we are calling it from piña or directly from plant product yet, but we do have a small amount bottled,
Mm-hmm.
and we have additional batches that will be coming hopefully very soon.
That's
So
great to know.
yeah, and we are processing that. The first batch, we just due to some regulations, we had to get it pre-cooked, and then we processed it from the cooked piña. But the next batches, we will cook ourselves and process truly start to finish.
Well, that's great. This leads into some of the challenges. What are some of the challenges you had while working with the Blue Weber versus what are some of your current challenges you see coming working with the Americana or the more locally grown agaves?
Well, working with nectar it's fairly easy.
Mhm.
It's we have a couple of other brand labels that we produce in house, which you kind of have to keep the lights on. You got to diversify. And nectar's easy. It's pretty much as easy as, pumping it and fermenting it. But when you're talking about actually making a product from piña, it is extremely labor intensive.
Okay.
Piñas can weigh hundreds of pounds. So you have to split them up. They have to be shredded. So it means you have to cut it up into pieces small enough to fit in the shredder, shred it. That has to get put into a press. It has to get pressed. And then you have to be able to dispose of, all of the fiber that comes out of the press, and everything has to be filtered off to be able to go into stills. And it's probably, I feel like I would be nice to say it's 100 times more difficult, but it probably is.
Do you see the need for like processing plants starting to rise up, or do you find that most people that are making their own spirits are taking on that challenge of processing the agave?
I think that processing the agave is a part of the art of producing the
Okay.
spirit. Everybody is going to do it differently. And so what we're finding is really popular in the US right now because, you can't just slap a Tahona in your distillery, right? And roller mills and things cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what's super common right now is people are shredding the plant and then they're like hot sparging it. So they'll take the shredded agave and they'll put it in a big tank and they'll fill it up with boiling water and they'll just drain the water off and hope that extracts sugar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of blowing the cells open with boiling water. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, that's definitely interesting. So you guys are really on a cusp of something where you're going to, and this is a great segue, you're really going to take what you're currently making and really make these things uniquely yours with the way you're processing. So that's something you guys have never been able to control before. So this would be a real exciting place you guys are in to see what you're going to come up with here in the future.
Yeah. And we're super excited to get our first batch out on the shelves. I think we only have like 50 or 60 bottles. And so it will just be sold through the front of house. I know that labels are being made right now. So probably by the time this comes out, it'll be available. We're hoping, but it's exciting to, be able to move into this new kind of market that's opening up in the US, just products that are from agave plants grown in the US. And there's lots of places doing it in California. So we're very in tune with all of them, and all of these producers are working together as a team to try and further this category. So there's really nobody going rogue or solo right now.
All right. Right now. I like that. Right now. I mean, so you definitely are kind of sharing a technology, but what's going to come out is just that what's going to be things are uniquely yours is just these little fine tunements you guys are going, each distillery is going to create in the end. And that could be all the way down to temperature and time and many other things. All right. So that's how you're going to futurely make it uniquely yours. Right now, since you are with the Blue Weber, that is the control. So what is it right now that makes your product kind of unique from other distillers?
Operate off of handmade stills. So our founder and myself, we built all of our own equipment by ourselves. So, we're going to be unique because we are using equipment that we have custom tailored to the product, and our stills only see the stills that we make are agave products with only see agave based products.
Mhm.
So we don't have to worry about, any flavor carryovers from other types of products. And we also have spent a ton of time invested in fermenting. So we use wild yeast strains, and, we keep some lab yeast around. You never know when you're going to need it, but we did develop our own wild yeast strains a couple of years ago. So we're many generations into that now.
All right. And what are some of the process challenges or you have or you've overcome while creating your spirits?
Yeah, well, there's really no book. So when we jumped into the space, it was basically a no man's land. A lot of the secrets are in Mexico, and you don't really have a lot of free access to that. There's all kinds of challenges with making gins and whiskeys and stuff, but it seems like information's a lot more readily available. Like I know that there's like a Odin's Guide to Gin, and that's just a great place to pick up knowledge about how to make gin, just the basics. But with agave spirits, there's really nothing. So you have to rely on just trial and error. And so we had many stuck fermentations. Things went foul, things got stinky, stuff had to get poured down the drain. And even today, we still run into, all kinds of weird issues that come and go as the seasons change. But it really took many years to get to where we are, just lots of tweaks with like fermentation, pH levels, and distillation temperatures. Do we go hot and fast or low and slow? So we tend to just treat everything very nicely, very delicate, very slow. We don't rush anything. And that, for us, tends to make just the highest quality product that we have been able to find.
I find that unique in the fact that you've been open to failure, and just what you have is these, even through the failures, your successes are even more precise. I'm assuming. I'm sure you've got great records on this, and the fact that you have records of what don't work and why can inform you so much more on how to make things even better. I worked in the laboratory for 16 years, and we're always on the cutting edge of we are looking for things we don't know if they exist or not. And you got better and better as you found out more things that didn't work. And it really wasn't just because, don't try that because it doesn't work. It was, this doesn't work because of X, Y, Z. And now I know I can probably take 5 steps ahead of where I normally would have been, making things work better. So yeah, you guys, this is a really unique place. I'm really glad I caught you in this interview with this kind of cusp where you are right now. This is great. So let's move on to the pour. What has kept you guys? I mean, obviously your great product has kept you in business, but what else keeps you in business as far as letting people know about your product, and what keeps people coming back?
Yeah, so I'll tell you that a huge driver of business for us is our tasting room. So we have a tasting room that seats maybe 70 to 80 people when we operate. It's kind of split into 2 sides, but we have excellent staff, and they make phenomenal cocktails. And that really put us on the map for Kansas City, especially as, in the beginning, our product could be hard to sell because people just didn't really understand what it was. But as we've seen the rise in popularity of agave spirits produced in the US, that's been a lot less of a challenge. But we have found that pushing our product for bars, restaurants, people that are making craft cocktails has been huge, and people really enjoy using it in all kinds of different expressions.
Okay. So the cocktail industry really helped push these things forward. So I'm sure they're definitely looking forward to the new palettes you're going to be coming out with these American agave as well. So has there been any, what are some of your biggest challenges while trying to get known, I suppose? What are things you come up against even today, just keeping people coming back?
Oh, I think that distribution woes are a problem for most all, craft distilleries. Thankfully, we're partnered with a great distributor right now who's been phenomenal, but that hasn't always been the case. So,
Okay. And how do you guys address challenges as a team? I mean, keeping all these pieces moving together so things can get to distribution, get product created, market it out there, and just be talking with the general public.
well, something that's really nice for us is that the core group, which is me, my sister, and her husband, we see each other at all the family gatherings, all the birthdays, all the family dinners, and, 40, 50 hours a week at work. So those we're constantly communicating. We also have a interesting advantage where, we can kind of call each other out.
Yeah.
We don't have to be too worried about, somebody's feelings getting hurt or somebody running off and quitting or leaving, because you can't quit a last name,
All right, that is a unique place to be. I like that. So calling each other out, keeping things honest, and so do you guys typically? I'm just kind of into this for the overcoming challenges. How do you structure, like, maybe your meeting structure? Is this a monthly thing, a daily thing? How do you break things down so you don't overwhelm each other with all the other things going on in the business?
Yeah, so we actually have our favorite little taco spot, Kansas City, is called El Pueblito. It's on Southwest Boulevard. And every Friday we take our laptops and we go, when it's nice, sit outside. And Nancy, our favorite server, brings us all of our beer. And we honestly just sit out there every Friday afternoon and have a structured weekly meeting where we just talk about successes for the week, challenges for the week. We have a list of kind of things that we hold each other accountable for, and we can say, did you hit the mark this week or did you miss it? And we just really push honesty and transparency with each other, which again, we can maybe be a little more pushy on items because we are family, but it really has changed the game for us, especially with, lots of challenges that we've faced just because of our location in the last, few weeks.
Yeah. And now a word from our sponsor. Hey, are you spinning your wheels trying to figure out what will really boost your business's bottom line? At Emberry Solutions, our Profit Priority Workshop is here to cut through the noise. We help you zero in on what truly matters, aligning your team, optimizing your processes, and magnifying your profits. Imagine your business running smoother than ever, with every decision and effort leading straight to increased profits. That's what focusing on the right priorities can do. Ready to boost your efficiency and profits? Visit Emberry Solutions and let's start making your business work smarter. At Emberry Solutions, we take your business from bottlenecks to breakthroughs. So speaking of location, I know you guys. I'm going to kind of tie this into where you want to take the business next. Now, you guys have a bit of a location challenge right now. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we found out shortly after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. I don't recall exactly what day, that the Kansas City Royals were eyeing a location for a new stadium. And it turns out that it was about a half a block from where our distillery and tasting room is located.
Okay.
So we had to really come up with a plan pretty quickly on how that was going to be handled. And we really worked tirelessly and didn't sleep, along with all of the other business owners that we continued to meet with, and all of the community association meetings and city council meetings and news interviews and paper interviews, and just, constant questions from the public about what was going on. And I won't go too far into the dirty details, but it was put to a vote the first week of April for the taxpayers of Jackson County. And the vote was for the 3/8 cent sales tax that would have paid for renovations at Arrowhead Stadium and for the Royals to have a new stadium. And the voters overwhelmingly said no. So the vote did not pass in Jackson County. However, that does not mean that we are in the clear. So there's still rumblings that the Royals still want the location. They've invested a ton of time and effort and money into, studies and architecture planning for this location. But we just are continuing to push for transparency between the city, the county, the Royals, and small business owners, which we didn't see with the Jackson County vote. But we do have hope that that can happen. And we are definitely not anti-Kansas City Royals or the Chiefs. We just ask that the Royals come to the community with transparency and understanding for the Crossroads area, this district that we have worked so hard to make it what it is, along with all the local artists and other business owners. So that's kind of where we're at. We're at a little bit of a stalemate right now, where we expect to hear more, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks. But it sounds like right now that they're probably going to come back with another avenue to try to get the stadium in the Crossroads.
So the Crossroads is a kind of a historical area too. Is that correct?
Yes. So there's some historical buildings. There's not as many on the register as I think people would like. And I know that there's a couple of people in the community are now pushing to get more buildings registered, maybe to try to stop the Royals from developing the area. But our side of the Crossroads, which is the East Crossroads, we have 3 distilleries and maybe 8 to 10 breweries,
Wow.
all within just a couple of blocks of here. And a lot of art galleries. We have the Trubin, which is a concert hall venue, and they do lots of fun stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
But we're tight knit, and we all throw down to support each other. And I don't see that changing whether a stadium comes in or not.
Yes, it seems like this is a great place to come after the game, not have the game dropped on you. And right now, just for people who are not familiar with Kansas City, the stadiums are literally neighbors at the moment, the Chiefs and the Royals, and next door. So they have this huge parking lot that's just basically with 360 tailgating, because you can have 2 stadiums worth of parking. And so the Royals are want to actually move into the city more so than out, because these stadiums are actually more outside the city. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the stadiums are maybe a 10-minute drive east from where we're at now.
Wow.
And so,
Okay.
yeah, both of the stadiums share a giant parking lot. And I know that the hope that the Royals had would be to move the stadium downtown, kind of capitalize on the downtown baseball feel, a lot like St. Louis has. And they want to kind of have their own version of Ballpark Village with some entertainment and a hotel and stuff.
I see. Okay. All right. So let's just say this does not go forward and you keep and the Crossroads stays intact as it is. At that point, where do you want to take the business next? Where do you see yourself taking a Mead Mule next?
I definitely think that we will continue operating probably out of Kansas City. We are growing rapidly at this point, and our building is not very big. So I definitely see us moving into a new facility, probably still in Kansas City. There's always a chance that we could have some type of remote production facility where we're growing our plants in Arizona. But it's hard to develop a plan at this exact moment with so many unknowns.
Yeah.
But yeah, we love our community and we hope to stay where we're at and continue to grow and help support Kansas City and the craft spirits market here.
So scaling aside, just because of the situation, what would be one thing you'd want to improve right now that doesn't have to do with scalability or footage?
I would still love to continue to transition away from making products with nectar and push very hard to continue to source piñas from farmers out west while we wait for our plants to grow. There's a huge market for many expressions, and there's a lot of empty shelf space for those types of products right now in the US. There's a huge demand. A lot of producers are making 100 or 200 bottles at a time, and they're selling out in hours or days.
That's amazing. Great. I really like where this whole beverage industry in the States is going. I mean, it started obviously with the beer, the craft beers, and now even in the wineries, they're starting with different varietals, not just your normal, like even here in Missouri with the Norton stuff, but they're branching out beyond that. I just found out there was a breeding program up in Minnesota for grapes, for hardy grapes, and then people are playing with those and bringing out new palettes and new flavors. And now you're at really the cusp of moving over to this American locally grown agave away from the Blue Webbers. And now that's going to open up such a neat door of palettes and techniques and flavors. So this just kind of keeps on going. And also, I'll not have to leave out the coffee. The coffees have become something extraordinary. I just had a cup of coffee from a coffee grower coffee roaster in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I kid you not, it smelled like strawberries and cherries before I even took a sip. It was wild. So, yeah, this is a really cool place to be in with the beverage industry right now. Having said that, and beverages, I've got a couple more questions here. If somebody wanted to start something like this, whether it be in the spirits or someplace else, what advice would you have for them?
Do your research. There's lots of big conventions and lots of groups like ADI, the American Distilling Institute, who literally exist to help tiny distilleries or maybe people who just do it as a hobby make it professional. Reach out to local distilleries, reach out to us. We are always happy to help try to give people whatever advice that we can, because we understand that the more craft distilleries that exist, the more market share we take up, the more attention we all get, the more successful we can all be. So we want any, micro distillery, craft distillery to just be as successful as humanly possible. And there's such a huge community out there that sees it that way. And so I hope that anybody who's looking to get into the space will just reach out or show up and take a tour and talk to somebody and, find yourself a mentor.
All right. Great piece of advice. So this next to last question is sometimes hard, sometimes easy. What is your favorite beverage within Mean Mule and when you're just out and about?
Yeah, that is not an easy question. As far as a Mean Mule product, I think that my favorite product that we have made so far, I kind of stole a barrel from a friend of mine who, Parker Pukta, I think he was on your podcast.
Yes, he was.
From
Yes.
Adam Pukta Winery in Norman. Yeah.
Yeah.
I stole a Estate Norton barrel from him about 2.5 years ago. And
Stole,
I think it might have been at his wedding, which was at the winery there. I stole it and I brought it back and I filled it with our product, and it's been aging for almost 2 years now, and it's coming along very nicely. So my guilty pleasure is to tap a little sample off of that.
Wow, how unique. I like that. So what about when you're just out and about, your favorite restaurant or wherever?
I obviously love tequila.
It's just tequila wherever you can
So yep, I'm eyeballing shelves looking for something good. My favorite producer right now is probably G4 or Toronto, which is up in the Highlands.
get it. Okay. I like that. Good distiller, always trying different flavors and trying different products. That's great. All right. So do you have any things going on here at Mean Mule, events, promotions, or activities you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that the Crossroads, we have First Fridays, which is every first Friday. It's kind of like a big community party. And all of the producers open up their outdoor seating. They bring in all the extra staff. There's food trucks, people playing music on the street corners, and, lots of art
Nice.
displays and stuff. So I would love for people to come out and not only support us, but support the other producers in our area and the local artists. But as far as just products, like I said, we do have first directly from Pina batch coming out, and keep a close eye. There's going to be, some marketing coming very soon about that and how you could potentially get some for yourself.
Oh, nice. So is there any place else we can find your spirits other than Kansas City, Missouri right now?
Yeah, so we are distributed whole state in Missouri, whole state in Kansas, and we are expanding again this year, hopefully into some additional states. So I know we have a decent market share in the major cities in Missouri, like St. Louis and Springfield and down Lake of the Ozarks and here in Kansas City.
And if anybody that's not from those areas wants to try a bottle, can they still order it online from you?
I would not be the person to ask that question to.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure
Yeah.
if there's I'm really curious, I want to try this out. How else can they get to you? So that's fine. Just didn't want to leave that hanging in case there's like, oh yeah, you can have our subscription order or whatever. But I just wanted to make sure we touched on that. All right.
Yeah, kinds of crazy shipping regulations right now. So.
Yeah. Okay. So Tyler, this has been a really cool interview. I was really pleasantly surprised just to discover that there's this transition coming and there's going to be a whole new flavor palette coming and just more trial and error. And you guys are so uniquely placed to tackle that. And of course, we hope that you guys are still where you are with the stadium and situation and all, and you continue to grow and scale. But yeah, this has been a really informational piece. I really like that you guys just kind of going against the grain, trying something different, and even to the point of just finding out what fails to learn what to do better. I really appreciate that, you sharing that with everybody here. So Tyler, again, thanks a lot for coming on the show. This has been a great interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages with Matthew Shipp. Check the show notes for our guest contact information. And connect with Matthew Shipp on LinkedIn today.